us here. That was a great off the record. That was probably the best one I've heard from everybody, that was the best off the record. Is Skubik here? No? No? Oh, is he? Okay. Yeah, no. That was the best off the record in the history of off the record. So if anyone out there, and there's thousands of people watching on the live stream. Oh, Kyle, you're live streaming again? Because, he stopped for a while. Is Simon here? Okay. Who was on that panel? No. Did you guys? For the Democrats. Very good new journalists there. But Bridge is in the back for the Democrats. And you look at this headline. It says, Michigan House passes GOP roads package without Democrat counterproposal in sight. And those were the key words. Without Democrat counterproposal in sight. Gongwer, which we know was the greatest article in the history of Gongwer. The profile they wrote about me, right down the middle profile. If you write these headlines, this is a very good headline. And it's true. The reason it's such a good headline is because it's true. It's true. There is no Democrat counterproposal in sight. And that was a great off-the-record panel. It's great that the journalists on that panel. And I'll tell you what, when I watched it, I kind of watched how these things work together, right? We're out there doing things. We're out there leading. This was probably the best quarter that the Republicans have ever had if you look at all the things we're doing, the House Republicans. But you watch it, seeing our work being independently validated by the reporters. And what I thought was really good, and this goes back to Bridge again and Jordan's great work, you went, and it's so confusing to understand what the hell MEDC is doing and what they're and how and whether they're creating any jobs and how much to fix. MEDC and SOAR is not creating any jobs. It's not doing anything. It's not creating any jobs. These programs, they have big promises, they have marketing numbers, and then when we see the results, nothing happens. And then what they do is they meet and they confuse everything. They change things. So great reporting on that, and you're right. The SOAR isn't working. SOAR isn't doing anything. It's not moving the needle. It's not creating jobs. These companies just take advantage of us with SOAR, and they never create the jobs. Got a lot of stuff going on, hopefully. There's a lot going on. What, is that thing not working? Stuff up here. Okay. You get it. You want me to start over? Okay. Like I was saying, Michigan House passes GOP roads package without Democrat counterproposal in sight. There is no Democrat counterproposal in sight, but you all knew that before. They all have their things up here. We got to get Channel 3 up here. This guy does a great job. He's a really good camera guy. So are you going to fix the malt box back there? Okay, well. You know what? At least we're talking and we're doing something. I mean, where's Winnie Brinks? Does anyone know? Is she on another NCSL trip? And you know how much money in taxpayer dollars we give to NCSL so politicians can go on these trips? I mean, it's millions of dollars. Probably don't need that in the budget. But Winnie Brinks will fight us on it because where does she go? She goes to like Argentina with these guys, all kinds of places. Remember last year? Yeah, so who knows where she is, but they're not in session. Last seen with Grimace. Last seen with Grimace on the, in the Capitol with the photo. Same day we were moving a roads plan. No one knows where she is, not gonna be here for 3 weeks, so I just figured I'd come up here and talk for a little bit, even if our mount box isn't working. Does everyone have their stuff up here? Okay, so I'll move through this. Number one, we have a roads plan, and I have the only bipartisan roads plan. Think about that. House Republicans, the House. Some people call it the Howell Overhaul the Roads Now plan. HORN, but I don't call it that. HORN, right? Hull Overhaul the Roads Now plan. A lot of people are calling it that, and I appreciate it, but it's a team effort. It's the House. The House has moved roads legislation bipartisan, and we saw a lot of Democrats vote for it. And it's something the Democrats don't have. They don't have a bipartisan plan. The Senate has no plan. According to Bridge, there is no Democratic counterproposal in sight. The governor has a lot of ideas, but they're vague. Now, we do know the governor agrees with half of my plan, which is $500 million in cuts, and $1 billion that you get by putting all of the money collected at the pump into roads. But you look at what we did, we had a lot of Democrats on board with our plan, and I think the reason is there is no counterproposal. There is only the House Republican plan. And you have these people with a negative governing philosophy, people like Ranjit Puri, and all they do is hate on the plan. And what I love is when Simon Schuster asked him, he said, what are elements of your plan? He had no answer. And so what other conclusion could the media come to other than the rational conclusion, which is Democrats have no counterproposal in sight. They just hate on the bipartisan plan that the House passed, and they have no solution. And so while Winnie Brinks is on this 3-week vacation or whatever it is, wherever she is, my hope is that she'll come up with a plan for the roads. And she could just take our plan, it's bipartisan, or she could come up with her own plan, but there is no plan. And the key is we put this up for a vote. And I also give Simon a lot of credit on this. He pointed out, this is a transparent process. Under Speaker Hall, who many of you know is the most transparent quadrant leader we've had in many years, and there are a lot of people up in this library, but I am the most transparent of all of them. I come up here every week, and it's so much that our team is saying maybe I should come up here less because you guys don't have any more questions. I answer all of your questions, and you might run out of questions, and if I keep coming, you guys will stop showing up, and so I might dial it back a little because of that, because I don't want to answer so many of your questions that you don't have any more questions, But I'm trying to help you, because if I wasn't here, what would you write about? So, because they're not doing anything in the Senate, wherever they are, and the governor, we saw she's not here, so somebody has to fill the void. But I'm just pointing out that what they're doing, they have no plan. We'll see if they pass the governor's plan, raise the corporate income tax. And think about this. By raising the corporate income tax on every business to protect the big three and the other mega credit recipients, they're raising everyone's taxes across Michigan just to protect the 8 or 10 that are getting the special favors through the mega credits. And you see the mega credits had Republicans and Democrats joining together to end the mega credits. These special deals 20 years ago for GM and the other most connected corporations in Michigan, they are going to get special tax treatment so that everyone else has to pay higher taxes. And what I would say to Governor Whitmer is, GM is already slowly leaving. We're watching them. We want them in Michigan, but Mary Barra and GM are showing no commitment to Michigan. They're leaving Michigan. They're slowly leaving Michigan. We have to try to bribe them to stay in Michigan. And you see, they're taking advantage of our leaders. I mean, you saw they took this $666 million from the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan, we don't have very good people, Quentin Messer, negotiating for us. They paid it all out when no jobs were created. And then you saw yesterday GM got the Michigan Strategic Fund to change its rules in their meeting. And basically, I've read through the minutes, right? But what they did was they basically said, because what GM was doing was they were commingling these things. They were making it where they could say, well, we'll create the jobs in Orion so we don't have to create them in Delta. They were shifting that around. Well, we have a great guy that I appointed to the MSF board and a few others that actually finally broke this apart and said, okay, there's Orion and there's Delta. Let's keep our jobs separate. So I do give them credit for that. But you look at this, I mean, I'm reading through these rules and it says that they will remove provisions allowing excess qualified jobs created at the Orion Township project to count toward the qualified job commitment at the Lansing project. That's number 6. And I'm just looking at this when they're talking about it. So what that means is they were trying to commingle Orion and Lansing. This is the funny math that we see from GM and these companies that take advantage of our state and take advantage of Quentin Messer. And it's the reason that all the reporters are writing stories about how SOAR is not working. And then it says in the next part that they remove the provision allowing excess qualified jobs created at the Lansing project to count toward the job requirement at the Orion Township project. Now, when you look in this resolution, it also it shows, I think, that GM was receiving this money because they have to modify it to take out the references to GM, except for the part where it says that GM, except for where GM is included in these contracts. So when you look at that part, you're going to see GM received money, and they received $666 million, and they're keeping it. They're keeping it. That's what they're doing, and then they're switching this requirement onto LG is what they're doing. They're not responsible for the jobs in Lansing anymore. They're putting that requirement on LG. And so in doing that, we're just seeing once again how these companies manipulate SOAR. And they take the checks, they cash them, and they don't create the jobs. And GM is doing that. And we never would have created SOAR at all unless this was about creating GM jobs. We wanted to keep the big 3 in Michigan. We weren't doing this. We didn't give $666 million to keep LG in Michigan. That was for GM. And so you're seeing it happen. They're taking advantage of us. And now they want the mega credits, right? They want to keep their mega credits. They get $300 million a year, it varies, from the state of Michigan, a check. And if they don't have any tax liability, they just get the money. And they're taking advantage of us. And we want GM in Michigan, but we need to do things that make sense for the taxpayers. We have investors too, and we have stakeholders too. They're called the taxpayers. And we need GM to understand we have to look out for our taxpayers. Our taxpayers, the people that we care about, our stakeholders, they want good roads. And if we, instead of giving this money to GM, we spend this money on fixing our roads and bridges, we're going to have great roads. And that's going to help bring more businesses here to the state. We're going to focus on regulatory reform, something that Governor Whitmer now embraces. And we're going to make our regulatory system better in the state. And we need a good tax environment in our state to attract business. But Whitmer's plan would take the ones that want to be here, the actual companies that want to be here, and raise their taxes, making it more likely they'll leave. It's totally backwards what Whitmer's proposing. And then you look at all these other taxes. They want to tax all kinds of things, digital advertising. They want to tax deliveries. They want to ban, and great job on this, Jordan knows. They want to ban vapes, except for the tobacco ones, which nobody likes. Nobody likes the tobacco vapes and then menthol. And they want to ban all the other flavors and then raise the taxes. That's not going to get any money for the state. And that's dead. We're not doing that. And then they want to raise taxes on marijuana. in a situation where the prices of marijuana are going so low because the black market is taking over. You don't see any enforcement on marijuana from Governor Whitmer. Everybody in the world can get a license for this. You flooded this with supply, and now they want to tax it and push more stuff into the black market. So there's not a lot of great ideas coming from the Democrats, but we do have a plan. We have a proposal that we can put forward that will solve this problem, and that is putting the roads and the condition of the roads, fixing our roads above the corporations and the corporate giveaways. We just have to stop the 8 or 10 most connected companies in Michigan from getting these mega credits, and then we can fix our roads. Or we do what Whitmer wants, and we raise taxes on everybody, and that doesn't make sense, just to protect the 8 or 10 most connected corporations in Michigan who are already leaving. And I'll just point out, this is great. I don't know, did we give this to the reporters? You guys like this? I mean, look at this. This is House Republican Roads Plan earns widespread support. And this is something that we've never seen before. I mean, you look at this. The Michigan Association of Counties loves this. The work that you've done here in really prioritizing the roads that people are on every single day in all of our counties is very important. That comes from the Michigan Association of Counties. What they really like about our roads plan, bipartisan roads plan, is that it fixes our local roads, something that hasn't been done during Governor Whitmer's term. The Michigan Laborers Council, these are unions. We are really excited that the Speaker and the members of this committee have taken a leading role in addressing this issue, and hopefully we will get to a bipartisan solution, which we did when it passed out of the House bipartisan. Now, these are a very difficult group, the Michigan Municipal League. Having worked on this issue for over a decade now, we are often in search of the perfect. Based on what we have before us today, I won't suggest that it is, but I can suggest that it is tremendous progress toward a solution, and we should continue to move in that direction. That's what the Michigan Municipal League, which represents all of the cities, is saying about our bipartisan House roads plan. The County Road Association of Michigan, this guy's been around a long time, Ed Noyola, we support the package. This is a problem that's been lingering for a long, long time. And now we're at a point where we're really starting to make some substantial improvements on the funding mechanism. He's talking about the bipartisan House roads plan. This is a very difficult group, the Michigan Township Association. We have 1,240 townships in the state, and sustainable road funding for our local roads is a huge priority. This is critical for our members, and we are happy to support it. And yes, that's from Judy Allen. I don't think I've ever heard her say something that positive before. And you can go on and on looking at this. All of the glowing support from every corner of the state, every organization, they are saying we support the House Republican roads plan. So I would encourage the media, what is the Democrat plan? I mean, let's help Jordan and Simon out. I mean, if there is a Democrat counter proposal, they won't write that headline anymore. They want to help you, Democrats, but you got to give them a counter proposal, put it up on the board, and vote it through your chamber if you want them to start saying there's a Senate Democrat plan. But we all know there isn't. There is not. They're focused on things like stating their DEI principles and suing me, which they're losing over and over and over to me. They're losing in the courts. And you saw just the other day, Judge Patel said, this has been appealed, so we're not going to hear your case in this court. This has been appealed. And just so everyone here knows, an appeal is part of the process. Now, I don't know if Mark Brewer knows that, but a lot of people do. So, and you see, I mean, what a great job Steve Liedl is doing. I mean, just every day, just showing more and more what we gave him a great case, but he's also a great lawyer, something that Mark Brewer's not. Now, I wanted to point out also, by the way, you know that we're working to, rein in government spending. Under Governor Whitmer, government spending is increased 43%. We've been through that. And we can't fix the roads by just raising taxes, something Whitmer proposed. She wants to grow government to 47% bigger than it was when she started. We can't do that. We have to find efficiencies in our budget, and we have to find a way in our existing budget to fix the roads. And that's what the Bipartisan House Roads Plan does, that passed the House. It does that. And so what we're doing is we're reining in spending. We're cracking down on sanctuary cities and counties and jurisdictions. And we're saying if you're a sanctuary city or county, you're not going to get funding in this budget for your pet projects. We're not going to fund splash pads for sanctuary cities anymore. Now, just so you know, I'll give you a little update on this. We are receiving letter after letter from these municipalities certifying that they're not sanctuary cities. And in fact, in Wayne County, I just received information from them that they are changing their jail policy in reaction to the new House rule. So in Wayne County, you will now see that they will comply with ICE detainers in Wayne County in their prison. And I know that was something we talked about at one of these press conferences that Beth was asking a lot of questions about. And I said, well, you know, if that's their policy, then they are going to be labeled as sanctuary county and they're not eligible for this funding. Well, fortunately, they've reversed their policy in response to our House rule saying that sanctuary counties will not receive special project discretionary funding. And now we see leadership coming from Warren Evans and Wayne County. They've reversed the policy. They are no longer going to have their sanctuary policy. They're now going to comply with ICE detainers at their jails, which is a great thing because when they apprehend an illegal alien, they will contact ICE. ICE will come pick them up in a reasonable time, and that's going to make Wayne County more safe. So I give a lot of credit to Warren Evans and Wayne County for reversing their policy on jails in response to the new rules of the House. And you're going to see that happening in more and more counties and cities across Michigan. Through our work and the work of the Trump administration, we're going to see a lot better things happening in those places. So that's really positive. And then you see HEAT, the Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Plan. And I read a lot of great stuff. I mean, I read this article in the Free Press where they pointed out FOIA isn't even the biggest problem. Look at all this stuff over here. There's so many ways that these university boards and others are not being transparent. There's so many other government bodies that are not transparent. Look at all of these transparency problems. So I thought that was good. That was some good journalism that the Free Press did, something I don't say very often. And then you look at this. So they have that, but you see HEAT moving forward. And HEAT, what's important about HEAT, we're going to end the revolving door where the politicians become lobbyists. We're going to stop the politicians from being lobbyists while they're in office. We have a robust oversight committee, and you see Dana Nessel responding to it now, a robust oversight committee that's going to hold the Whitmer administration accountable, hold our Attorney General accountable for her radical lawsuits. I mean, these lawsuits she's proposing, they're crazy. They're crazy. They're a waste of taxpayer money, and they're very political lawsuits. And so we are going to stop the weaponization of state government by Dana Nessel, but also under HEAT, we're going to put transparency in the earmark spending. We created that website, and politicians are starting to go on there and start filling out their earmarks on that website. And you guys are going to be able to see this stuff in real time, what they're putting on that website once they figure out how to do it right. You know, a lot of politicians, when you become a politician, you forget how to use a computer. You forget a lot of these marketable skills. So we're working through that, but you will see those submissions on there once they're done properly. And you're going to be able to evaluate them and look at who's sponsoring them, what is it for, what is the public benefit, and when will this project be complete. And so that is another result of HEAT. the Hall Ethics Accountability and Transparency Plan. I'll just talk real quick about education. There's some really big things going on in education with the House Republicans. And I hope you look at, there's so much going on, and we can talk. I mean, we voted to reverse the Democrat income tax hike to 4.05, where it should be. The Whitmer administration is stealing this money from the taxpayers. The tax cut, the tax rate in Michigan is supposed to be 4.05, and the Democrats manipulated that in order to raise the tax. The tax rate is not supposed to be 4.25. It's supposed to be 4.05. They raised it to 4.25. That's money the government should not have. And so we're going to reverse the Democrat income tax hike. And you saw 7 Democrats vote to do that. Bipartisan in the House. All the Republicans and 7 Democrats. So as we're approaching this budget, something we all know, Mallory McMorrow and the Senate Democrats are working toward a government shutdown. And so what you saw us do is a government shutdown prevention plan, which will make sure we don't use our schools, our veterans, our local governments, our police, as pawns in a political shutdown game. Well, as we're negotiating that final budget, after we pass the government shutdown prevention plan, we're going to include the funding for our roads within that existing budget without raising taxes. And we're going to reverse the Democrat income tax hike. We're going to do those things. The House has been leading the way. Now, I have no idea what the Senate budget plan is. We have no idea. They're not even here. But I want to talk about education, something very important. And you got to think about what this committee is doing. They are totally, now you saw all the stuff that passed, and I don't know, did we give them a sheet that shows all the votes? Yeah, is that what this is? Yeah. I mean, I think one of the most underreported stories, and it's because we're doing so much on roads, on the budget, on the taxes, we're reforming government spending, we're reining in sanctuary jurisdictions and changing their rules. There's so many things going on, but on education, you look through this education plan from the House, something we started in September. We launched this in September and said, if you elect us to a House Republican majority, you're going to see this education plan. And I told you at that time, this is a bipartisan plan. This isn't just saying we're going to repeal what the other side did. This is how do we do new things to solve these problems in a bipartisan way to help improve our schools and their performance. And you see these bills rolling through the House with huge bipartisan support, 80 votes, 90 votes. We saw the bills to lower the cost of college and trade schools by expanding dual enrollment and giving kids a head start on basic course and credits. That passed 92-13, okay? You see giving parents more information about how their schools are performing. That passed 86-19. This doesn't have to be hard. If we come up with solutions that make sense, we'll get bipartisan support. That's why I say, if you have the right leader, which is me, you bring people together and you get things done. You look through all of these things, allowing school districts to put more money in the classroom, shrinking class sizes, and spending less on overhead by sharing services and administration services. That passed 97-8 in the House, something that hasn't been reported much because there was a lot of other things going on. Allowing teachers to fill critical vacancies when they have subject area expertise, that passed 96-13. So you're seeing this stuff moving very quickly, but the new bills this week you saw in committee are very significant. We're completely overhauling the Michigan merit curriculum and adding flexibility and modernizing this so it'll work better for our kids. And you see them adding requirements for future skills. You see them modifying requirements on, to allow for computer science courses to count towards your graduation requirements. You see all kinds of CTE classes, all kinds of things. We're changing the science, way they do the science. We're changing the way they do the math. We're changing the way they do foreign language so that computer coding could be a foreign language. We're changing all kinds of things to put more of an emphasis on real life skills, learning things in school that are actually going to have practical application to your career, rather than just taking these things that have always been in there. That is a big deal. You see flying through the House that we're modernizing the curriculum. We're going to make phonics the standard in Michigan. This is going to be the standard for the state of Michigan. Now, last year we got some stuff done, and Kathy Schmaltz and Jamie Green did a great job of taking this and starting this process of bringing phonics back, because our reading scores have been terrible since they got rid of phonics. We're bringing phonics back, and we're going to make it the academic standard for Michigan. That's what this legislation is. It's coming and through the House committee, which I think they met today, didn't they? Yes. Did they move that through yet? Yeah, you're getting the updates here. So that's a really positive thing that's going on there. So there's a lot of great things going on with education that are bipartisan, and they're going real well. So we're changing the trajectory of education, which I'm really positive about that we're doing. So as we're moving ahead there, I hope that you guys will write stories about that, and you look at the other things that are moving through the Education Committee there. You know, when we're done with spring break, what we're going to do, number one, we're going to move swiftly on the Public Safety Trust Fund. We want to make our communities safer, and it's part of, you know, we start by investing in local roads and infrastructure, something that our bipartisan roads plan does. But we can invest more in our local communities by, for the first time in the history of Michigan, investing state dollars in our local communities for public safety directly. And so we're going to be moving forward on the Public Safety Trust Fund. You saw Mike Harris introduce that with Al Abbas Farhat. And so you're going to see us moving ahead, talking about that in the coming weeks, and then moving on that in April. And then we're going to be moving forward on regulatory reform and permitting reform and licensure reform. And I hope you're watching the House Rules Committee. They're leading the way on this and identifying where we need these reforms and then recommending those to the House. And then you're going to start seeing the House moving ahead on regulatory reform as we're doing that. I'll also point out on education, you know, we're going to fix this, what do they call it, the M-step. And what doesn't work with the M-step is at the end of the year, you get these results after you're on your way to the next class. We want to make it where you learn it, you take a test on the front end, maybe you take a test in the middle, and then you take a test at the end, so the teachers can assess their progress. If you do that, you can intervene quicker to make changes. It doesn't make sense to just get the results at the end. So I think that's going to be another important thing that you're going to see moving through the House Education Committee. We're very excited. I think it may have moved. Did it move? Yes. Yeah, it moved, so look for that. So I'll stop there, and if there are any questions, I'll take them. Yeah. So on this, you know, we're trying to focus on what brings people together. And so I've assessed the people here. I've assessed Whitmer, the Governor Whitmer. I've assessed Leader Brinks. I've assessed our caucus and the Democrats, and what I put together is what I think is the most viable bipartisan plan that will bring people together and actually has a chance of getting done this year. And so in doing that, what we did is we put an emphasis on local roads. If you look at the bipartisan House plan, it puts an emphasis on local roads. And it does that by taking money from the corporations, these big corporations that are giving special giveaways. It claws that money back, puts it into roads and bridges, dedicates a critical bridge fund. It has a neighborhood roads program so that our local roads in urban areas are being funded. And it also ensures that in some cases, the townships don't have to match. As you look at some of these very small townships, they can't come up with the money. Even if they jacked up their taxes 100%, they couldn't come up with the money to match. So what we did is we put together a plan that counties support, that townships support, and cities support, something that probably nobody thought could happen. We did it. When you start going down the road of the Citizens Research Council, you're going to start dividing people. Where I do agree with them is, and you're going to see this over the next few weeks when we come back from break, we do need some reforms. And what I've encouraged Chair Outman, and you're going to see Chair Outman working on, is you give them the funding and you make reforms too. So we are going to have some reforms. Those reforms, though, won't be playing around with their PA 51 and changing those percentages. We do it our own way, which you see in the House Roads Plan, but more money is getting to local roads. We're like doubling the money that gets to counties. We're doubling the money that gets to cities. You see these major county leaders, people like Mark Hackle and Warren Evans, who are very happy with what we're doing. And then when you get that done and you get a new governor and you get a new Senate leader, I'll probably still be here. I've got 4 more years to work with the next ones. We'll see what else can be done. So that's how this works in real life. And it's great that the Citizens Research Council has some academic work that they've done, but we've got to get real votes. That's how you put plans together. That's what we're doing. One more thing real quick on education I just want to point out. This is crazy. There's like thousands and thousands of curriculums that are used. And I didn't even know this until I started really doing the research. There are like thousands and thousands of curriculums being used. We want to create standards for the curriculum. Like they should be peer reviewed. They should have some kind of track record of success. And unless you're one of these very big, rich school districts, you don't have a curriculum director to figure this out for you. And you see people going on TikTok and Pinterest and all these places to find their curriculums. We don't know if these are good curriculums, if they're verified, if they're real, if they have proven results. And so we're going to create a Michigan Department of Education list of expert curriculum that's peer-reviewed, that has results, a proven track record, that's very robust. We're raising the standards for this because there are no standards. But we're going to create very high standards for these curriculums that we use. That is a major, major change. Now, we're not going to mandate this, but I think it was going to really be something widely used if there is a list of highly recommended curriculum for the state. And you can narrow this down instead of thousands and thousands of curriculum. I mean, how would you like it if you were a parent and you found out that your teacher got their curriculum on Pinterest, a website that some people say nobody uses except for teachers looking for curriculum? It's incredible if you think about it. Wouldn't it be better if there was if it was just a statewide list of peer-reviewed, demonstratable, working curriculum? I think that would help. I mean, we're looking at how do we improve education in our state, modernizing the curriculum, doing this where we have higher standards for our, where we actually have high standards for our curriculum. These are going to be really big things. And then all the other things I talked about. So other questions?
Speaker Lowe, how many times have you met with
Oh, Leader Brinks. I don't know. You know, she's suing me. She's suing me, and so you know, that isn't a very good thing. I'm trying to think whether, I mean, I've talked to her on the phone. I talked to her on the phone. It's not like Ranjit Puri. You know, most people consider the quadrant, because quadrant is four, these four: me, Winnie Brinks, Eric Nesbitt, and Gretchen Whitmer. They consider that the quadrant, because if you don't have any positions, if you have a negative governing philosophy like this Ranjit Puri, who's totally drowning, you saw this. There's actually leadership in the House Democrats for once. Speaker Joe Tate, I mean, you saw him come out. He got his legislation up for a vote, something Puri can't get any of their bills up for a vote. Speaker Tate got his bill to give driver's licenses to illegal aliens. He got it up for a vote. Now it failed miserably, but only 6 Democrats had the guts to stand up and say illegal aliens should not get driver's licenses. You saw all of the House Republicans take that stand. But nearly all Democrats voted to give illegal aliens driver's licenses. But hey, Speaker Tate got his bill up, and you saw him get up there on the rostrum, and you saw him give a passionate speech, and a lot of people were saying, where was this leadership last year in lame duck? Where was this? And you saw him show some emotion and slam his papers down. That was leadership. You're starting to see a little bit of leadership from their floor leader, Fitzgerald, you know, and you watch him on the floor. He was, you know, he doesn't like the term illegal alien. He thinks that that's offensive. They are illegal aliens. They're here illegally. They're illegal aliens. That's what they are. Now, John Fitzgerald, he wants to change the term, and he went up there and he made his case, and you saw every House Democrat vote basically that they don't want us to use the term illegal alien. You saw that vote on the floor, the ruling of the chair vote. But hey, at least there are a couple House Democrats showing leadership. Speaker Joe Tate, which many Democrats are saying to me they made a mistake with Puri and they think they should have stuck with Tate. Think about that. But you're seeing why he's showing leadership, finally. They would have used it last year. And then secondly, Fitzgerald is starting to show a little leadership. They're seeing no leadership from Puri. And I would say Al-Abbas Farhad is starting to show some leadership. You saw him up there voting with us on the House Republican roads plan, something Joe Tate also did, which showed leadership. He has a positive governing philosophy. They told me Tate was supportive of this nuclear energy package that we're doing in the Energy Committee. He's doing a lot of things showing leadership, something Puri's not doing. So, you know, Winnie Brinks doesn't have quite the negative governing philosophy of Puri, who most people don't even consider part of the quadrant. So we talk on the phone. I talked to her a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was last week. I talked to her last week, and I told her, if you want a book closing, then you're going to have to pass our government shutdown prevention plan, because we're not going to let you guys use our veterans and our kids and our local governments and our police as pawns in your political shutdown game. So we talk, you know, occasionally on the phone.
You guys met in person?
I don't think we have. I don't think so, no.
Should we be concerned by that, Speaker? That the two leaders haven't sat down, had coffee, had a lunch or something yet?
So what I would say to that is they're suing the House. This is something that's never happened in the history of Michigan, where the Democrats, who left me a complete mess, no book closing, they don't present their bills. It was a total mess. They didn't even adjourn properly for the year, and I came in and the adults are running the House. It's a mess what they left us with. So I would just say that they're suing us because, you know, they should be suing Joe Tate. He's the one who didn't present the bills. And they've created a very, very negative environment. But I will say we've worked with Sam Singh. And you know, Sam Singh is a very extreme left-wing Democrat, but he does understand policy. And I don't know how many Senate Democrats understand policy, but Sam Singh does. And so we were able to work through those 25 items on the earned sick leave bill. And, you know, you want to talk about a big deal for this quarter. We got that done. You know, we got that done in 6 weeks. We raised awareness through the walk-off. We put pressure on them. The people spoke, and we got a deal with Sam Singh, and we got tip credit and sick leave done. So we've shown we can do it, but we did that with Sam Singh.
Would you, since you brought it up, would you or are you negotiating with Democrats, Senate Democrats on the deal to send more bills to the
No, you know, the House, I'll say this, we were working on a very thorough legal review with Andrew Fink, who's one of the most respected attorneys in Michigan, and the best attorney in Lansing by far, much better than the governor's council or anybody else's. And certainly, I don't even know who the Senate Democrat council is. They're not very highly regarded. But maybe it's also Mark Brewer, I don't know. And he's he's being exposed in these briefings. If you read these briefings, you're like, I can't believe this guy is an attorney. No attorney writes that sloppy briefing except for Mark Brewer. But anyway, we're not negotiating on that because we were doing this thorough legal review and then the body spoke. And we saw that resolution put forward by Rochelle Smith. And then you look over, you see the Republicans voting aye, most of them. And then over here, I was watching the Democrats, a lot of Democrats were voting aye too. It passed overwhelmingly, and that's the will of the chamber. So I wouldn't do some kind of deal behind the chamber's back. The chamber's spoken, and we're acting accordingly.
Speaker Paul, yesterday President Trump signed an executive order requiring full citizenship in federal elections. I want to see what the state was on the constitutional.
Yeah, and you see a lot of great things going on in the Election Integrity Committee. Isn't it great that we have an Election Integrity Committee in Michigan? And you saw yesterday the testimony from Pastor Lorenzo Sewell and other people from Detroit talking about their concerns there. So there's a lot of concerns that are ongoing. We see what Brian Posthumus is doing, a constitutional amendment that moved through the Election Integrity Committee to require citizenship to vote. There's a lot of things we're hearing about that. So when President Trump stepped up with executive action to require citizenship to vote in federal elections, that was a much needed thing. And I would expect that Secretary Benson and the Democrats will comply with it. We should have citizenship to vote. You saw a foreign national voting in Michigan, and their vote counted. We don't even know how to track a lot of these print-on-demand ballots the day of elections. The reason we found out about the foreign national who voted is because they came forward. So we need to clean up our elections. We need, you know, it's great. We shouldn't have where the ballots come in days and days after the election like Jocelyn Benson wants. The election should be decided on election day. You should have citizenship to vote, and that's what President Trump is doing, and I thank him for it. That will be what we need to have fair elections in Michigan. So great work to President Trump for stepping up and doing really what Jocelyn Benson and the Democrats should be doing but won't do because they like the way it's going now because it favors them. But we're going to change it. President Trump has taken action, and the state of Michigan should comply with President Trump, ensuring that citizens are voting in our elections and that elections are decided on election day, not weeks and weeks later when new ballots start showing up.
Speaker, to that point, is it fair to say then that House Joint Resolution B, which is the same subject, you don't have the votes in the House to pass it? Is that why there hasn't been a vote on that yet?
Well, the reason there hasn't been a vote on it is we're moving forward. You see a lot of things. I mean, unlike the Senate, which is doing nothing except for suing me and attacking Trump and passing their principles of DEI and taking pictures with grimace, all they're doing is that. We're doing decisive things. I mean, I've been going through this with you. Education reform, modernizing our curriculum, roads, fixing our local roads, reversing the Democrat income tax hike. We're doing all of these things, and we're doing them bipartisan. And so we haven't gotten around to it yet, but I would expect you'll see us get around to it soon. We're doing so many things, we got to slot that in. I mean, we got to get public safety trust fund done. That's going to be my top priority when we get back. And we've got to move forward on regulatory reform and permitting reform if we're going to bring jobs, high-paying careers to Michigan.
We've got time for just one or two more.
So public safety trust fund is going to be a priority.
Mhm.
That obviously has to move to the House. Do you expect it to be much changed from how it was introduced? And have you had any conversations with someone in the Senate about moving those bills? Obviously, they were passed over the chambers last year.
Yeah.
Just kind of, what do you expect overall?
Yeah. And just on your thing, I would hope the Democrats would vote for it. I mean, voter ID and citizenship are very, people believe citizens should vote in Michigan. That's a very popular belief. So I hope the Democrats share that. Your question about the Public Safety Trust Fund. Right now, we're working with some of our local leaders, people like Mayor Duggan, some of our local townships, cities. You need your thing back? All right, which one's yours? Okay, great. No. You could never do that at Governor Whitmer's press conference, but well, they would have, she only takes 3 questions. I mean, I think, how many questions did you get last week? 3. That's as many as all of you got with Governor Whitmer. How many questions do you guys get with Brinks? Probably 0. She doesn't do these. You could walk up here and take your malt box, I guess. Is that what those things are? I don't know what they're called. These things, but anyway, to answer your question, we're working with local leaders right now. Cities, you see Chief Bettison, what a great job he's doing in Detroit, and he was up here with us a few weeks ago. Cities, townships, working this through, making sure we get the formula right, and also victims of crime, because victims of crime funds are going to get a lot of benefit out of this funding. So we're working through that. You're going to see us do some events talking in more detail, and then those bills are going to move through the House, hopefully very early in April. We get them through the House, and they've got to be bipartisan. And from what I've seen, I mean, they all voted for this last year. Remember, they changed one little piece so it didn't get signed into law, which was one of the tricks they used. But remember that right at the end, they changed like a comma or something and sent it back. So we got a little work to do there, but we're going to send it to them. And this is something, the Senate Democrats are not in majority because of anything they did. They're in majority because of Governor Whitmer. Governor Whitmer has indicated support for the Public Safety Trust Fund in the past, and I hope they listen to her. It's in the budget. And we just need to. Yeah, it was in that budget, so we can just pass it and fill in the details so it works. But we want to see the money not just going to Detroit. We want to see it go to all cities that need it and townships that need it, and we're going to work to do it. And Karen Whitsett is doing a great job on this with Alabas Farhat, real leaders in the Democrat Party. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I spoke to the Grand Rapids Chamber Conference recently. There were probably 800 people there, and they all were saying something that none of us thought we'd ever say. We miss Rosalind Bliss. So you look at there, remember David LeGrand? He's a wacko. And every week, all they do is talk about making Grand Rapids a sanctuary city. They're really losing focus. Unlike leaders like Warren Evans, who's reversing his jail policy to ensure that they comply with ICE, you got David LeGrand. Every week they talk about being a sanctuary city. They're losing their focus. I don't expect Grand Rapids is going to screw this up. I think we've got better city leaders, people like Mayor Duggan, that we're working with to get this done. And you're going to see it benefit a lot of our communities, our townships, our cities across Michigan. Even Grand Rapids will benefit. And I hope they use it because they sure could use some public safety help in that city.
Last one.
When we're talking about education and all of the funding, inside of Governor Gretchen's executive budget, she has some stipulations inside of it when we can talk on when it comes to permanent funding.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, during her state of state speech, she mentioned cell phones. She wants that to be a priority in order to get funding. She also mentions that schools being those two policies, cell phone policy, and making sure that schools are going to be subject to a mass capital event and having negotiations
Yeah, so the first one is the cell phones in schools. Yeah, and you see Mark Tisdale working on this. Mark Tisdale's done a great job being a leader on this, where we don't want these kids on their cell phones in school all the time. They're supposed to be learning, and this is becoming a bigger and bigger problem. And Governor Whitmer has embraced Mark Tisdale's plan. I think that's a great thing, and we're going to move forward on that very soon to get that done in the House. The second one about what is the second one?
You must be subject to a investigation in case of a mass trafficking event.
So we're still looking at that proposal. I'm not aware of all the details of that one, so we're still looking at that one. Anything else? I know I gotta go, so we good? All right, well, thank you to the press corps for showing up week after week. And I'm sorry you don't have other leaders that will speak to you, but I will. We're just not gonna do it so frequently that you guys don't show up, so. But hopefully we gave you something to write about today. Thank you.